Hello and welcome back everyone. It is now time for Harald Cavalli-Björkman with Renewcell to present. He's both a Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Investor Relations with the company. Welcome very much, Harald.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll just jump right into the presentation, I guess. Thank you for listening in today. I'm Harald. I'm with Renewcell. I joined the company back in 2017. It's been a wild ride since then, and I'm happy now to present to you guys where we're at the moment and what we're planning for the future. Let's start with a short video.
Have you noticed that lots of things go around in circles? Seems so natural, doesn't it? After all, that's how it's worked for billions of years, until we lost track. We need to go circular again, before we reach the end of the line. For us, circularity is about ending waste to reduce humanity's impact so that people everywhere can prosper. Renewcell recycles textiles by breaking down cotton in worn-out clothes and putting it back together again. At our new home in Sundsvall, we're recycling a paper production line and going big. For the first time, billions of worn-out clothes can be made into new clothing at a scale that really makes a difference. Right here. With expertise like this, we're leading a global industry back to circularity.
So that's the very short version, but let me take you through the whole story just to make sure you all get it. So starting with the big picture, fashion is not sustainable. We have a massive impact owing to the enormous amount of raw materials that goes into making the textiles that we wear. There are three big raw materials for making fashion in the world today. There's polyester, there's cotton, and there's viscose. And all of these have their own particular profile of poor environmental impact and some that they share as well. But just to give you some idea about the impact that these materials have in their production. So first of all, a pair of cotton jeans needs about 10,000 liters of water and sometimes even more to be produced. Just a single pair. And that is what has contributed to the situation that you can see on the left-hand side of this slide. That used to be the Aral Sea. It's now the Aralkum Desert. It used to be the fourth largest lake in the world, but that water was diverted around the 80s and 90s into irrigating cotton fields to make the clothes that we want to wear. Looking then to polyester, which is the biggest fiber on the market, it stands for about 2/3 of all textile fibers. It's a fossil-based material, of course. It's made by pumping oil and forming it into and extruding it into polyester fibers. It contributes to 35% of all ocean microplastic pollution that we have. So every time you wash a polyester garment, you wash out thousands of microplastics that go right into the ocean. There's no way of filtering that out, and bioaccumulates in the ocean, causing a massive pollution. And of course, polyester being a fossil resource, it's very energy intense in producing the material to begin with, and it contributes net CO2 if it's burned after use, of course. And viscose, which is the third largest type of textile fiber out on the market, it's also the fastest growing. It's made from wood. Which means we need to cut down trees to make it. Now in Sweden and in some other countries, we have very well-managed forestry that makes sure to plant back the forest that's culled. But that's not the case in every country in the world. So the increased demand for viscose fibers for making fashion is leading to deforestation in ancient and endangered forests around the world. For example, in Indonesia and also beginning in Brazil. So 200 million trees, it's a lot of trees, go into making just fashion every year. And that's just looking at the current state of affairs. So, and with all these resources that we spend to making these clothes, it's pretty depressing to also consider the fact that less than 1% of it is recycled back into clothes. That's an enormous waste of materials that we spend a lot of resources in making. And that's the current state. 110 million tons of textile fibers produced each year. Now, this will only increase in impact going forward. Because the fact is that we have 1.7 billion people approximately joining the global middle class until 2030. People lifted out of poverty, finally being able to live a prosperous life in the same way that we've been become used to in the developed countries in the last 30, 40 years. And that means, in most cases, that you start consuming more clothes. So some estimates put the increased consumption of textile fibers to 160 million in total in 2030. And that means an increase of about 50 million tons of textile fibers demanded each year. We have a massive impact today, and it will only get worse tomorrow if we don't do anything about it. So the simple fact is that fashion needs solutions now. At Renewcell, we offer one such solution, and that is to make fashion circular. We join the ends of the value chain from raw material production back to waste generation. So we plug into the existing value chains when it comes to fiber production on the one side, and then when it comes back as waste and it's collected and sorted, we can plug into that value chain and use that material to put it back into the same value chain and make high quality, virgin quality clothes once again. And the important fact here, probably for the people listening here, is that we're actually enabling the fashion brands to keep their promises that they've already stated, because they know this problem. They hear it every day from the consumers. They hear it from their finance, from their investors, and they hear it from regulators. You need to change, and we're here to make that possible. But we need also to step back so you can understand our business model, exactly what it is that we do. So on this slide, you see that we sell pulp, cellulose pulp, called Circulose, to fiber producers. But we market that material to the brands because it's them that decide what happened in the value chain, what's demanded, and it's also them that have the biggest pressure on them to change. So zooming in on that R in the middle of that value chain, that's where we're at. Then this is what we're doing within that little circle. So we take in textile waste that's high in cotton, which is the same as cellulose. So it's the cellulose that is the cotton that we are refining. We start by shredding old clothes or production waste in a dry step into smaller fibers, and then we put it into a patent-protected chemical treatment in which we adjust the properties of the cellulose, once again, that's the cotton in the material, to have the right properties for later stage fiber manufacturing. And those kinds of properties are the viscosity of the material, the brightness of the material, and the reactivity of the material. Now, I can't go into details here because we keep a lot, although we have 5 patents covering this part. We also have a lot of know-how that we keep close at hand. But we use typical chemicals used in the Swedish pulp and paper industry today to make this happen. But the innovation is in the sequence and in the way we use those chemicals. Moving on, we also have a stage in the process for separating out the polyester and elastan fibers that is invariably in even 100% textile, 100% cotton textiles. We need to be able to handle that material and separate that out, and that becomes a waste. So at our future plant, we're targeting a level of being able to accept 90% cotton content textiles. And that means that 10% can be polyester or something else that we can separate out. After that's done, we have a free floating in water, a cellulose pulp material that's basically done, but we need to get the water out in order to deliver this to our customers. So the last part of the plant is basically a paper machine where we press the pulp, we use heat and air in order to create a square sheet of paper, paperish material, that we then sell to our customers by the ton. And the cool thing is that these customers that we have, the fiber producers, they buy the exact same product, but from manufacturers that do the same product from wood. So it's a direct drop-in into the same value chain. Now, something that you need to look at when you're considering innovations in this space, because a lot of innovators are looking at making circularity work within fashion, but the proof is how that really transforms into going through the whole value chain and out to retail for people to buy. And last year, in March 2020, we proved that Circulose, which is our product, is a substitute for the commercial products that are out there already. So on the left-hand corner, we have our first garment launch together with H&M in March 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. It sold very well. We followed that up with a launch with Levi's in the summer of last year, in which we replaced 20% of the cotton in a pair of Levi's jeans, the most iconic cotton garment there is, which proves for us and for the market that we can replace cotton, which is, you know, the key thing, the big fiber, the 25 million tons per year, in the most iconic cotton garment there is. We followed that up since with launches with Bestseller, the Danish fashion house that owns Vero Moda, Jack & Jones, Selected, and a few other brands, and also Kappahl, which together with H&M, actually, H&M is a 10% owner in the company today, and Kappahl is also an investor in the company. But we get calls every day from other brands globally that want to get at this material. They want Circulose in their clothes, but we don't have the opportunity to supply it to them with the level of production we have today. So we need to scale up. And that is exactly what we're doing now. So we did an IPO in November last year, IPO of the year 2020, in order to finance the building and construction of our new plant in Ortviken in Sundsvall. We're moving into the site of a former paper production mill in which SCA, they decided to exit printed paper manufacturing last year. And that opened up a space, a production hall. It opened up the pool of amazing skilled workers, very experienced in running cellulose manufacturing processes at this particular site that we're now hiring out of. It also opened up access to state-of-the-art water treatment facilities and a beautiful harbor, which you can see on the upper right-hand corner of this slide, Tunadalshamnen, in which Sundsvall municipality and SCA Logistics are now investing into expanding that capacity, which gives us beautiful access to shipping routes for our product coming in and going out. And most importantly, being in Sweden, we can now access 100% renewable energy and 100% renewable steam production at this site. So we're very happy to be able to recycle, being circular also in our approach to industrial establishment, not just the product, knowledge, infrastructure, and the site generally. We're building now, which we went marked with a 60,000-ton plant in Ortviken. But what we've also financed as part of the IPO that we did last year, and also the loans that we're securing together with this project, is the possibility, as the market responds, to expand that, to double that capacity with a small additional investment to 120,000 tons. And that's what gets you to the breakdown that you see in front of you right now. I'm not going to have time to go through all of it particularly. What I want to point out with this slide is the gray area, that's us, and we have a set price for $1,200 per ton for our product that we've already sold two-thirds of the capacity that we're building in Ortviken in Sundsvall to a Chinese viscose manufacturer called Tangshan Sanyu. They've contracted for 40,000 tons over a 5-year period already for $1,200 per ton. And we buy raw materials at the cost of about $220 per ton, and we have $410 per ton in COGS, which, you know, energy, chemicals, and staff, and we have that yields a margin of 43% at the plant level. Just briefly also about the financial guide or the targets that we've communicated to the market thus far, which is the same as we did in the IPO. We have a target of 250,000 tons in capacity by 2026, and a EBITDA margin of 30% at that point, which goes on to 360,000 tons by 2030, and a margin of above 30% at that point. I'm actually out of time now, but just 3 takeaways at the end here. So I want you to just consider and remember that there's massive demand and massive need for circular materials for fashion production. We have at Renewcell a commercially proven 100% circular material, the only ones really out there with that type of product. And we're now investing in rapid scale-up as quickly as the market can take it. We're scaling up production now with our investment in Sundsvall. Thank you. And please reach out if you have any further questions here.
So thank you very much, Harald. Very interesting company, of course. You have your goal set on an installed production of 250,000 tons with an EBITDA margin of 30%, one of the last slides you presented. Could you perhaps elaborate a bit on the journey towards this? How are you going to reach this scale and the margins there?
We're going to commission the plant that we have in Ortviken, and then we're going to, this is something that we haven't laid out in detail to the market, so I can't go into detail right now, but we have a clear vision of how we're getting to the 250,000 tons by 2026, and how we'll go about that. We have not communicated exactly where that capacity will happen, and other than that. So the margin calculations that you have on the previous slide, it's what we're offering at the moment. But the fact is that we have an efficient process and we have a world-class team of people working on this. We've been able to recruit really top-class operators and engineers out of SCA and the decommissioned plant that they have there. So we have all the confidence in our targets that we have going forward into the future.
And perhaps just a brief word for those listening that do not know of your company. In Q1, what was your revenue? Did you make money? Did you lose money?
We're not making a profit at this point. So really what we're doing right now, we have an existing production facility in Kristinehamn, which has really been key to be able to make this happen and prove commercially that this works, in which we're now going up to a 3-shift production with a focus on really, now that we have the financing for the Ortviken plant, to optimize and to secure a smooth startup of the Ortviken plant, and that carries with it optimizing the parameters for particular batches of material that we're now testing with the suppliers that we've contracted with already, making sure that this batch works this way and it runs this way, and also really trimming the product specifications on the other end of our process. Now that means that we're not prioritizing volume at this point for Kristinehamn. It's in Ortviken where we do the commercial, profit generating part. So if you look at the figures for Q1, it's not super interesting in terms of revenue in that way.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And the product that you produce, this pulp, can you describe what can it be used for? Is it just one sort of products or?
No, there are several use cases for the dissolving pulp product, but we've deliberately chosen strategically to go to fashion because it's the highest margin and it's the biggest also in that segment. Maybe not the highest margin. There are some specialty use cases also that might be a bit higher, but it's definitely the biggest use case for viscose fiber production. But we have also acetate film that's used in pharmaceuticals, for example. The most exotic thing, of course, that I've heard of is sausage casings as well. Some tire manufacturers use it to make they put viscose rayon into their tires in order to have something that doesn't melt at certain temperatures. So there are a number of use cases, but fashion is definitely the biggest.
I see. And what about competition? Because obviously there are the currently used materials, but is there any other competitor that can, provide, let's call it circular economy pulp?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to restate the fact that there's 50 million tons of demand coming online, and then we're also going to shift the 110 million tons that's already consumed. So there's plenty of room for everyone. It's no way that Renewcell itself can supply all that added demand. And yes, there are competitors out there trying to do basically the same thing that we're doing, turning cellulose waste into cellulose products for fashion. But our assessment is that we're 5 to 7 years ahead in commercialization and scaling that product and actually getting something out into retail. So we haven't seen anybody really going all that way with this type of product. Now there's a product called Refibra from Lenzing, a Austrian fiber manufacturer, that offers a 30% textile recycled product. And their target is, as far as I've seen, to go to 50% by 2025. Now we're at 100% now. So just our assessment of the ambition there is that we're the only ones out there doing this.
Okay, yeah, you seem to be really ahead of the competitors. What about the pandemic then? Did that kind of stop your process, or?
Actually, no. I don't think so. We were kind of nervous, going into launch with H&M with our first actual garment into retail. What we've seen is for the brands and the retailers, it's really put the foot on the accelerator for the trends that were already there. The shift to digital channels and the shift to sustainability. The people working within these brands, they kind of got a pause, and then they got to thinking, how do we come out of this as a better, more sustainable brand? And really, that's what we've felt. So if anything, we've felt more interest in our product owing to this. That's the story that the brands want to come back with. We're reopening, we're coming back, and we're better than ever. And that is about sustainability.
Okay. And finally then, what do we have to look forward from you in the coming year?
Well, mostly it's about making sure that we're on budget and on time with the project in Sundsvall. That's our big lift. That's what we're doing. So that's what we're focusing intently on. And added to that, we're going to see a few more brand collaborations coming out, which we can't talk to right now because the brands want to promote that when it's closer to product in store and they have their plans. So I'd be on the lookout for that. Updates on our progress with the Sundsvall plant and further collaborations and applications for our product.
Exciting indeed. So thank you very much, Harald, for presenting here today, and best of luck on your journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.